And so I thought I would just go live and answer them. It'd be the easiest way to get people the answers that they need all about prednisone, this amazing medication. So here's a question. This question's all about cortisol and prednisone and how cortisol, basically how prednisone is mimicking cortisol as a stress hormone and how that makes any sense with inflammation. So let me actually read the question so you can understand, and then I'll get into the answer. So the person says, wow, thank you, Dr. Megan. That's the part that gets confusing as to the use and function of prednisone. If cortisol is supposedly a stress hormone that raises inflammation in the body, then how is it that prednisone treatment using doses way higher than your body naturally produces will calm or control inflammation with an anti-inflammatory agent? So that's really confusing. Let me talk about cortisol and what an interesting, amazing hormone it is that Mother Nature created. So way back in the day, what could be measured using the science available was showing that prednisone was strictly an anti-inflammatory hormone. What? How could cortisol be like that when people feel that that's inflammation? So cortisol, as you naturally produce it, as this person says, is correct that it is a stress hormone, but is incorrect when this person said that raises inflammation in the body, at least long term. So this amazing book I've read, you should check it out. It's called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, and it explains cortisol and inflammation in an amazing way. I love that book. It just breaks it all down, even for laymen to understand this really complicated topic. So if cortisol is supposedly a stress hormone, this person asks, that raises inflammation in the body. So let me talk about how it actually decreases inflammation in the body. Cortisol is meant to help our body survive disasters. In this book, it's talking about how it's made to help that zebra run away from the lion chasing them across the savannah. It's made to help us as humans survive wars when, our own species is attacking each other. It's made to help the crow fly away from the hawk, right? Like, it is there to get you through a short-term disastrous, life-threatening situation so that you'll survive, someday be able to perpetuate the population. But it's all about right now, surviving this disaster. That is all cortisol cares about. And it's really interesting because in the book, Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers, it explains that actually at the very beginning of an emergency, so at that moment when the zebra is running away from the tiger, it increases inflammation. So it's that first moment where it's this rapid increase of inflammation so that your body turns on a whole cascade of hormones. Epinephrine, norepinephrine, these fight or flight to get you through the disaster right then. And then over minutes to hours to days, it becomes anti-inflammatory. And it's at higher doses that it becomes anti-inflammatory. So you're correct that it raises inflammation, but that's only short term. At higher doses, it's actually decreasing inflammation. It's really confusing how our body uses cortisol, but that is what makes it amazing for people who need an anti-inflammatory medication. Prednisone is like the perfect anti-inflammatory for so many conditions, but it comes at a huge cost, right? So Mother Nature wants us to survive this disaster, but she doesn't really care about long-term health. And so it's stealing from your long-term savings account, your rainy day fund, is what cortisol is doing. It's stealing from your glucose stores called glycogen in your liver to give you the ability to have the energy to run away. That's like the sugar. It's stealing the sugar you've stored up in the liver so you can run away. Then it's stealing from your muscles and your bones all of the calcium and magnesium and all of these amazing things that you've stored up long-term in your long-term savings account, your rainy day fund, and it's allowing you to get through this really hard time when you can't eat because it's a famine, or you can't, you've got to get away because it's a war. It's just giving you, that tiny bit, the dregs of your body, the little bit that you've been saving, and you're wasting it all. Like, you're going through it really fast. You're like a person at Las Vegas, like, hey, I've saved up $10,000. I was going to buy a car, but I've got $10,000 in an account. So I'm just going to blow it all. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? That's what cortisol's saying. Just blow the whole wad. And that's really fantastic if you're trying to get away from the tiger. Not fantastic if you actually wanted to buy that car, right? So that's how cortisol is actually an anti-inflammatory hormone when it's at a high dose. That is the really confusing way of explaining how cortisol and prednisone in particular is helping decrease inflammation. It is an anti-inflammatory drug. It's such like the anti-inflammatory drug that other drugs are named as not this. Ibuprofen, the class of drugs that ibuprofen is a part of, is called a non-steroidal, not prednisone anti-inflammatory drug. So this is like the original anti-inflammatory, and I'm so grateful it exists. Saved my life and saved so many other people's lives, but it comes at this huge cost. I mentioned, I'm going to just log into my computer so I can get the next question out. It's stealing calcium from your bones, magnesium, protein from your muscles. It's stealing glucose stores from your liver, all over your whole body. It's stealing all this stuff. It's telling your body to pee out chromium and other things. And that's why you need to be replenishing all of those things that prednisone is stealing to get you through that disaster, to give you that inflammatory amazingness. That's why you need something like Nutranize Zone, which is what is sponsoring this episode today. Nutranize.com is where you can get this amazing supplement to help you get the inflammatory benefits from prednisone and not have to lose so many nutrients. So that was our first question we've gotten. And let's go to the next question we've gotten. All right. Okay, this person said, I'm a UK resident. I was diagnosed with PMR and I reduced to 6 milligrams of prednisone, reducing 1 milligram every 4 weeks. Diagnosed with osteopenia recently. What supplements and dosages should I be taking whilst on prednisolone? I love British people. Whilst on prednisolone. Yeah, I'm going to say while on prednisone because I'm in America and I'm not as fancy. And also in America, we use prednisone instead of prednisolone, but essentially they're exactly the same thing, but just one molecule different. So the same exact guidelines are true for people in the UK as in the United States for people on prednisone or prednisolone. And the doctors who prescribe prednisone the most, they're called rheumatologists. They say, and if you have PMR, that's the type of doctor you probably go to. They created a guideline in the United States. It's called the Glucocorticoid-Induced Osteoporosis Guideline. And it's for preventing osteoporosis caused by prednisone. Prednisone is stealing calcium from your bones. That's leading to bone loss, thinning of your bones, softening of your bones, making them brittle and fragile, more likely to break. It's more likely to lose height, have compression fractures in your spine so that you lose height. Your spine is collapsing upon itself. It's common to get wrist fractures, hip fractures, all over. Your bones are just brittle because of being on prednisone or prednisolone. And so she wants to know what supplements and dosages to be taking while on prednisone. And so in this guideline, they recommend at the minimum I'm going to tell you lifestyle changes first and then the exact dosages of supplements. So in this guideline, they recommend weight loss if you can, being at a healthy weight, not too little. You don't want to be too thin because that increases your risk for osteoporosis, and you don't want to be too overweight, which is really hard while you're on prednisone because it's causing weight gain. So they recommend weight loss. They recommend exercise, especially weight-bearing exercise, things that are going to stress your bones to help them build up stronger. So weight loss, exercise. They recommend quitting smoking. That can increase your risk for bone loss as well. And quitting drinking because that can increase your risk for bone loss as well. So those 4 lifestyle changes, in addition to eating a diet rich in protein, they don't actually say this, but I'm saying this, protein and vegetables, because those have the nutrients that you need that I'm about to recommend as a supplement. So the doctors in this guideline, evidence-based guideline, they looked at hundreds of studies and they decided that calcium and vitamin D3 are the most important to supplement. And for calcium while on prednisone, they recommend somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams, depending on your personal situation, to meet the USDA guidelines. So if you're like a postmenopausal female, you need more. If you're younger, you need less. If you're pregnant, you need more, things like that. Men need less than females, so it's really dependent on your situation, how much you need, but somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams of calcium. But you never, ever, ever want to take calcium alone. That can be dangerous. You can get hardening of your artery with calcium depositing in your arteries. That's worsening heart disease. So you never want to take calcium alone. You've got to be taking it alongside D3 and K2. They said D3, I say K2. I think their guideline's a little outdated, even though it only came out 2 years ago. So vitamin D3 is very important to be taking along with the calcium so that the D3 can help the calcium avoid your arteries and be deposited into the bones. In addition, you need vitamin K2 to guide it to properly build bone mass. Finally, you also need to be taking magnesium. Magnesium is super important to support the bone strength as well because prednisone is depleting magnesium. And so vitamin D3, and they actually didn't recommend a dosage this time. In the past, they recommended 800 to 1,000 international units. And in this updated guideline from the rheumatologists, they actually recommend that you get your vitamin D tested. I have vitamin D tests I can recommend, but your doctor can prescribe or order is the word. Your doctor can order a vitamin D test. It's the 25D hydroxyvitamin D blood test to see where your range is. And they want you to get in the normal range. Somewhere around 70-ish is usually a good goal. You want to stay below 100 and above 30 at like the max and the minimum. A lot of people they've noticed who have inflammatory conditions like arthritis and PMR and lupus often have low vitamin D as a baseline. And so getting that up into the normal range on its own can be anti-inflammatory. So getting vitamin D healthy can help support the inflammation in your body and help that calcium that you're taking to be deposited in the proper place in your body. So get that vitamin D tested, ask your doctor for the test, or go on my website, prednisonepharmacist.com, and you can order your own vitamin D test. And then you need, so I told you the dose of calcium is somewhere between 1,000 and 1,500 milligrams. For vitamin D, it's somewhere for whatever it takes for you to get around 70 on your 25D hydroxyvitamin D test. And then you need to be taking vitamin K2. And I include that in my bedtime bottle right here. And I have 45 micrograms in this, and that's what I'd recommend. But 45 micrograms of vitamin K2. And I have the best kind of K2. It's the MK7. That's how long the chain is. It's has the best evidence for supporting bones. And then magnesium. magnesium you need to be taking, almost every single American. We're talking to a UK resident. I'm guessing this is the same for you too, but maybe your food supply is better than ours. Most Americans have low magnesium status just because the food we eat is low in magnesium, as opposed to the way it used to be when you raised your own farm. The magnesium was better. Like, we weren't doing factory farming. And so it was way better back, when your grandparents or great grandparents were eating. There was more magnesium in their food. So you need to be supplementing with magnesium. I personally take magnesium every day. My favorite kind is magnesium glycinate. And I personally take 200 milligram doses at a time, which also happens to be what I include in Nutranize Zone. There's 200 milligrams of magnesium glycinate morning and bedtime. And then there's the calcium, 1,000 milligrams, that you have to split up. I forgot to mention that. That's super important. Oh my goodness. If you take 1,000 milligrams of calcium right now, your body will just get rid of 500 milligrams. It cannot absorb more than 500 milligrams at a time. So you've got to be splitting the dose. That's why I have 2 different bottles. So you can take 500 in the morning and then 500 at bedtime to split it so that you can actually absorb the calcium. Your gut can only absorb 500 milligrams at a time. So you have to be splitting that dose. So if you need 1,000 milligrams at a time, which is what's in Nutranize Zone, then you can just take it twice a day. But if you're one of those people who's postmenopausal, low weight, female, Caucasian, if you're in the UK, I'm guessing this is you. Basically, if you have PMR, you're probably postmenopausal. You probably need 1,500 milligrams a day, which means you have to take it 3 times a day, essentially breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Or if you're doing Nutranize, you can take it 2 in the morning with breakfast or with your prednisone dose, and then 2 at bedtime. And then you'd probably want to take another calcium in the middle of the day if you are that person who already has osteoporosis fractures and you need higher doses. So that is the minimum of what you should be taking to protect your bones while on prednisone. But what about your metabolism, right? Prednisone is messing with our metabolisms, causing us to feel super hungry and hangry and could eat the whole chocolate cake, right? I just crave Oreos, all of those things when I'm on prednisone. And so you need to be giving back what prednisone is stealing from your metabolism. And one of those things is chromium picolinate. Chromium is a metal mineral that's on the periodic table of the elements, and it is being peed out when you're on prednisone. And the problem there is if you're not giving it back, then the blood glucose continues to stay high. Your body thinks you're in fight or flight and you've got to run away, and so it's releasing all of this glucose from your liver into your blood, and you're not able to use it because your body's peed out all of this chromium. You've got to have that chromium in order for the for the insulin to let the glucose into the cells and be utilized properly. So you've got to be supplementing with chromium as well while on prednisone. And so the best kind of chromium is called chromium picolinate. That's the kind that was in the studies in Israel that showed it could actually reverse diabetes caused by steroids. So if a person's taking steroids, you give back the chromium picolinate specifically, and that allows a person to have stable blood sugars, to not have such hangriness, to keep a not so round moon face, to slim that moon face, to keep the weight distributing properly, because prednisone is causing this fat redistribution. It's taking the fat and the muscle from your arms and your legs and just redistributing the fat on your face as moon face and on your belly as belly weight gain, making even men look pregnant. It's horrible. Well, the chromium picolinate helps keep good muscle mass and helps to lose the right kind of fat instead of stealing from your muscles, like the GLP-1 agonists often cause muscle weight loss more than fat weight loss. And so it's causing this sarcopenia, this full body muscle weakness and loss. So we want to keep our strong muscles while on prednisone. And so chromium picolinate is one of the ways that we can support our muscles, support our metabolism, keep a stable blood sugar. And so that's also in Nutranize Zone, which you can get at nutranize.com. And then prednisone is it's hard to have good, strong bones and a healthy metabolism if you're not getting healthy sleep. And prednisone is notorious for causing insomnia. The number one tweeted side effect of prednisone is insomnia. And so you've got to be doing what you can to get restful sleep at night so that you don't get hangry and so that your bones can build up, because that's when the bone building happens, is while you're sleeping. So if prednisone is making it so you're not sleeping, the bone building isn't going to happen as well, right? So you need to be getting stable, good, restful sleep. And the only way to do that is to replenish what prednisone is stealing from your sleep, and that's melatonin. They did a study of young athletes and it showed that their ability to have a normal sleep-wake cycle was completely demolished. The hormones that turn on your tiredness, melatonin and others, were completely turned off by just one dose of dexamethasone, which is just like prednisone. And so you've got to be giving back melatonin. And the dose of that I recommend is somewhere between 1 to 2 milligrams to start. You can go up to 5 or 10, max of 20 milligrams. Okay, we have another question. Greg says, is taking prednisone occasionally for 4 years or so considered long-term? Yes. Holy cow, long-term. And if you're on prednisone now long-term, you need Nutranize Zone to go along with it to be minimizing the damage, for sure. So 4 years is considered ultra long-term, actually. What's really amazing is every scientific study and scientist that's running a study defines long-term in their own special way. So some studies say that long-term is 3 weeks, right? 21 days is long-term. Crazy, huh? Others say long-term is 3 months. And there's a few out there that are like a year is long-term. But most of them, it's somewhere between 3 weeks and 3 months is the definition of long-term steroid use, long-term prednisone. Crazy. I know, Greg. It's amazing that that is what we would call long-term. And the reason that they call 3 weeks only as long-term treatment is because at that point, your body has completely become reliant on you using prednisone or whatever other steroid you're on to replace your cortisol. You are essentially unable to make your own cortisol at that point. You have turned off what they call the HPA axis, your ability to have your brain and your adrenal system communicate. And at that point, you must taper off in order for that whole system to slowly turn back on. Okay, TL says, what are some things that I can give my father-in-law, supplement-wise, who's been on and off prednisone for the past 10 years? TL, this is exactly what you need. Nutranize Zone. It has a morning bottle and a bedtime bottle. Gives back all the nutrients that prednisone steals. In the morning bottle, it focuses on keeping a stable metabolism, good weight, not having too much weight gain, and strong bones. And if he's been on and off for the past 10 years, his bones have probably lost a lot of muscle mass. So he should be taking calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, potassium, and vitamin K2. And he needs them. And they're in here. This is designed precisely for someone like him. You can get it at nutranize.com, nutranize.com. And then the chromium picolinate is exactly what he needs to support his metabolism. And then the bedtime bottle helps him sleep restfully at night with melatonin and magnesium. So this is exactly what your father-in-law needs. You can get it at nutranize.com or on Amazon. Okay, Jay Baxter says, hello. Any other questions? I've got a few more minutes. I can answer maybe 1 or 2 more questions about prednisone. If I don't get one here, I'm gonna go through the comments section from other videos. Okay. Oh, Greg wants to clarify. I meant occasionally for 4 years. In other words, take 20 milligrams for 2 days, then off for 4 days. Interesting. Yeah, that's tricky. Basically, they say that 21 days of treatment in 12 months. So if you're on it for more than 3 weeks, 21 days total in a whole year, then that qualifies as long-term. Okay, Dylan says, does prednisone lower blood platelets? Actually, it usually raises blood platelets, and platelets is the reason I personally had to take prednisone. I had an autoimmune disease called ITP, and the P basically stands for platelets, but it's thrombocytopenia purpura or thrombocytopenic. There's a lot of ways it can be described, but P is essentially for platelets, and that's why I took it. My body was attacking my blood cells that are responsible for clotting. Those are the platelets. And when I took the prednisone, it allowed my body to build back up because it stopped that autoimmune attack on my own cells of platelets. So it often raises platelets is what it usually does. Duke says hi, hello. Other labs that are changed in your blood, if you're wondering, eosinophils are another type of blood cell. They're usually a white blood cell that helps with allergies. And when you take prednisone, they are completely killed off. There are 0 usually on your blood test. If you manage to still have eosinophils after taking prednisone, wow, you must have super high eosinophils or something. I don't know. It's pretty much unheard of. And then other things it does, it raises blood sugar, and then it raises, blood sugar. So that would be like the A1C will be raised, and then it will increase sodium as well and decrease potassium. Those are the main things, and calcium. It will decrease calcium as well. Okay, back to TL. Thank you. In the last 3 years, he's had 2 MIs, heart attacks. Would these supplements interfere with anything related to medication related to his MIs, blood pressure meds, etc.? This should not interfere with his blood pressure medications. I checked it with almost every medication that a person on prednisone would be taking, all the ingredients, and the pretty much all heart medications except maybe amiodarone. This is good with. The only one that do not take this with that is not a blood pressure medication. It's a transplant medication, and it's called tacrolimus. And that's usually people who have kidney transplants or maybe heart transplants should not take this. But other than that, this is designed to be compatible with the medications that people who take prednisone would be taking. That's I'm a pharmacist. I ran it through drug interaction checkers. I mean, they're not perfect, but that's exactly what I designed it for. Okay, Jeb Baxter says, I'm finally down to 5 milligrams a day. That is fantastic. Getting down to 5 is like a milestone. That is worth celebrating. Party. You got to 5 milligrams. If a person can get to 5 milligrams, that's kind of where, to me, that it goes from black and white to gray. That above 5 milligrams, it's like black and white. This is pretty much harmful for everyone. And below 5 milligrams, it's getting gray. Depends on your situation. But for most people, getting to 5 is I got here. I'm getting safer. It's a safer place to be. All right. Well, thanks for everybody who joined us today. I'm Dr. Megan, your Prednisone Pharmacist. This episode, this live, was sponsored by Nutranize. You can get Nutranize, the supplement designed for people on prednisone. I created it based on my experience, my training as a board-certified doctor of pharmacy, and third-generation pharmacist. You can get it at nutranize.com or on Amazon. Signing off, Dr. Megan, your Prednisone Pharmacist. You're welcome. Bye, everyone.